a knowledgeable, aware process that we live with and in, how to achieve our maximum potential in our lives and how to make it simple and easy for us, how to use the universe and mysticism as a fundamental tool for our optimization and success. These are all lessons that we'll have in the academy.
Fuck yeah. That's really all I have in response to that is fuck yeah. Like, it reminds me of when I left our first ceremony in October that I had with you, and I would get all of these ayahuasca reactivations at night in my sleep, and I felt like I was in Xavier School for the incredibly exceptionally gifted, and I was training every night to learn how to control these new powers that I discovered I had. And our friend Rob was like my teacher, my always there, just being like, no, contain it. No, contain it. And I'd be like, I can't contain it. Everybody should feel it. And then I'd explode. And then I'd have to start back over again. And I'd be like, shit. And he'd be like, he'd just be like pacing around me with like a ruler slapping against his hand. Like, you have to contain it. You cannot just walk around and explode everywhere, all over everybody. Like, no. And I learned some really valuable lessons from that. So I can only imagine what it would be like to learn from you in that space of um, harnessing all of that information.
Well, I think we have unique gifts and skills, and each person would have an opportunity to develop those with guidance and support and mentorship. And so my goal in my mind is that if we had 1,000 or 10,000 people in the mystery school, and each one, was like an X-Men, each person was like a gifted student in Harry Potter. Each one was awakening these gifts that are within us that come from Source itself, and most people lay dormant. They never awaken them. They never get to learn how to use this aspect of their consciousness. And I think each one of us is so unique in our own right that the real discovery is how are those tools and these miraculous gifts, existing inside you, and then how do we come together in community to bring them to work together as a cohort and share in that. And so I think that's like the big vision is awaken your unique gifts, these tremendous skills and powers that you have, and then bring them together under common intention and see what we can do with that. And I think what we'll be able to do is phenomenal, including awaken all different aspects of our lives, really improve our lives in a very rational, step-by-step kind of way. And, really focus that on the core places in our life that we would like to see improvement. So I think we all feel that way around our relationships, friends, and family. We all want that for our careers and, what we do for making a living and income, our actual spiritual connection itself, our relationship to Source, our position within the universe and who and what we are, and then, the relationship we have here, like who we are in our own development. And so getting this aligned within ourselves and then giving that out into the world, I think are these things that we can really apply very specific techniques to and awakenings to, and bring a tremendous amount of sense to what we're, doing with spirituality and plant medicines and psychedelics, and give a real context to the container. And that mentorship, I think, is, really key.
I love that you touched on the self-love. Really was what I got from that with you saying, what's going on here with us inside. Um, that was something that had come up for me during those 8 ceremonies as well. And two of the other people who were working with you had mentioned to me, I was sharing with them my intentions about, yeah, I want to work on my wealth frequency and I want to work on this with my career. And they were like, what I'm really hearing is that you need to work on self-love. And I was like, you guys don't know anything. And I sat with how I felt so much discomfort around what they were saying and realized that that was the message for me, was that I needed to sit with the focus being on self-love. And that was what I went into ceremony number 5 with, was, okay, I give up. I don't want to work on all this other shit. I want to work on self-love. I hear the message. I receive the message. So I think that's an important part too of any mystery school, is like seeing the signs and signals and knowing how to interpret them and letting go of the resistance to what's coming up, like getting the ego out of the way and identifying that this is the path.
Yeah, I love that. The awakening of self is so important to this process. We have ego transcendent moments like when you experience ego deaths and stuff, but the self love is the gateway to awakening your consciousness.
Mm.
And as your consciousness awakens, then you get new creativity, and that allows you to improve all those other aspects. And so I think without the self love, we don't actually get really truth to the other aspects of our lives. And so I think this has to be the place where we start, is how we get straight with this relationship within ourselves. And I think there's, the plant medicines are just such a tremendous gift for that. Just such a gift, because if we set that intention, that is just what happens. I think that's also a powerful tool that we'll learn to use and wield in the mystery school, is intention.
Mm.
So if we set the intention with our plant medicines to learn and awaken to self-love and alignment within ourselves, then that's exactly what will happen over 5, 10, 15, 20 sessions or ceremonies.
Intention is so powerful. There was something I was shown recently on a cannabis and ketamine journey
Mm.
where I was intending to change around me what I was seeing and noticing that it wasn't changing into what I wanted it to until a certain level of focus and drive and power was really pushed behind my intention. And it gave me almost a deeper understanding for how softly I was manifesting in my life currently. That
Mm.
just by simply thinking, oh, if I attach this to that, cool. But I really got the lesson on how to essentially put more like throttle on it, how to make it a little more clear in that medicine space. So I think there's so much that can be learned too when we're in it about what is our current level and how could our current level be improved, and how can we recognize that even in others of their level and their ability. Do you see that in other people where um, how to adjust their throttle or see what they're creating?
Yeah, I think that um, as you work with people, you become attuned to their energies, and you become attuned to how they're approaching what would be common problems or common scenarios for everybody. And as you do that, I think you can understand that aspect of their manifestation and where they are in their approach and the energy that they give to it. And you can kind of like, help guide that. You can help somebody turn that on more, or actually even throttle back if they're, kind of like trying to force it from the universe. They're trying to, make something happen that just can't. I think
Mm.
a ebb and flow. I was just talking with somebody recently, actually. It's a very successful person, insanely successful person in the world. Um, he he runs a huge festival, like huge. He created it. It's a huge festival in the world. It's a big famous festival. And we were talking about, trying to plow through obstacles and manifest through them, or recognizing certain resistances when they come, and realizing that that might be a reason actually to understand that we're not supposed to flow in that direction.
Mm.
And earlier in our lives, we both agreed in our 20s and early 30s, we would try to plow through every obstacle. Like we didn't think that that was actually like either a warning to us. We took it as sort of like something that had to be overcome, instead of a recognition that maybe the universe is telling you, hey, just veer this way in your thinking, like rethink that thing. And so I think you can see that in others and help support that, and help them really recognize in their manifesting state, like, you know, how to approach the energy of that and who can help them in terms of like manifestation in spirit. um, you can't ask spirits to do things that they're not capable of. It's like asking for the wrong tool.
Mm.
So the hammer doesn't screw in a screw, so you need a screwdriver. So it's also like that too. I think when you're watching people work with spirit, you can help also guide, like, hey, maybe those spirits aren't the right ones to call for that. Maybe you need to call other ones. And so you can kind of guide and help that in terms of manifestation as well.
Cool. I guess one last thing before we wrap this up is I'm curious if you've had any shamanic battles lately.
If I had any shamanic battles lately, I would say proudly no. I would say that I haven't had to actually like, go in there in any kind of way in that sense. But what I would say is that we're still confronting all the same stuff in the world that we would have had to battle over, right? But in using sanctuary, we can bring the extraordinary capacities of that technology to neutralize the battle. And so it's like the battle's already over before we would have fought it. But I think what's been unique about the practice of sanctuary is that there's still a process associated with sanctuary bringing balance and harmony to everything. So when we go into a space and um, there's still resistance in certain ways as we're moving through that to ultimate balance and grounding and harmony with the nature of sanctuary. And so the need to battle things themselves aren't as necessary anymore, which I'm truly personally very grateful for, having lived through that for a long time in my own life. But I think it's really interesting to go into sanctuary and see the same things that we would have had to fight now not require fight, but actually just require a process. And then watching that process unfold and take place. So, we have been working with certain scenarios where there's been significant darkness, and some people have brought some really significant things to us. Very difficult spirits to work with, or just the traumas of like really heavy, heavy things in life. And watching the power of sanctuary has been very powerful.
Mm. Yeah, I love what you created with Sanctuary. I invoke it for all of my ceremonies as well. I've got one coming up this afternoon, actually, right after this podcast interview.
Oh, wow.
It's like my preparation.
Amazing. What are you doing? What kind of ceremony?
Mushroom ceremony. So
Oh,
I've got
beautiful.
a client who weirdly is walking a path with someone that I've just sort of walked with my partner, who's my partner, not my partner, my alliance mate. Is sort of, we've discovered in removing titles how much stronger and more fluid, quote unquote, relationship can be in knowing that we will walk this life together forever. And that may not always involve a romance. And sometimes it may, and sometimes it may not, and just being open to the fluidity of that. And so this client who's come to me is stepping into that evolution with his partner, but in that deep reflection and only the way a partner can, it's illuminated his shadows of really lacking self-love and feelings of abandonment. And so tonight we're going in on that with the mushrooms. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, I love it. I actually had a pretty fun ceremony last week with a woman who was working on finding her truth, and she had all of this ancestral trauma from her Korean line of women not being allowed to speak their truth. And
Oh,
so
wow.
as we were going in and like pushing out her voice, like she was literally making sounds like trying to get sound out and unhinging her jaw, and it started coming out of her neck. So I'm going in there and helping release the things that are stuck and sending them out and away and banishing them, sending them to sanctuary. And she's just finally sobbing, and she kind of hits this like borderline trauma point where she's been hyperventilating. And so I bring her back down and re-regulate her nervous system so that we can try to go again if she wanted to. She was kind of not able to verbalize a lot of the ceremony. She just really wanted to be guided, and she could kind of nod yes or shake her head no. Um, but eventually looked like she'd gone a little too far, and then she did end up being able to speak, and she was like, no, I want to get this out. I want to. I was like, okay, as long as you're consciously here and you want this message to come out. And she broke down, had a big emotional breakdown, and then this message from the universe moved through her like a freight train. And
Wow.
it was so, so powerful about speaking our truth and speaking from a place of love and fearing not who hears your words, because I am love, and it will only fall upon the ears of those who want to receive it with love. And um, just a blessing to facilitate, really.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I love what we do.
No, it's an honor and a blessing to get to participate in these medicines. And I think for anyone out there who wants to learn and train in it, there's now a place for them to do that. And, you know, more the merrier, and welcome in this incredible space.
I highly encourage it, highly recommend it. Hamilton Souther, you are the fucking man. You are the best. You're the one I train under. And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Barry. You're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.